All right, all you Move, Think, Smile followers, everybody in our integrative marketing and functional business growth group. It is Ellie and Adam today, from Move, Think, Smile. And one of the questions we keep getting asked is, what exactly is it do you do and how exactly do you do it? So what we want to do today is we want to go in depth and share with you the exact framework, the exact system of what we use with our integrative and functional clients in order so they can get out there and tip the scales from sickness to wellness, save their clients and patients thousands upon thousands over traditional healthcare systems, all while boosting their bottom line by at least $116,400 in the first 12 months. And so we've got a lot to share with you. Please take notes on this. You can come back and watch it anytime or rewind it, but we want to give you the exact framework and how you can install it yourself. So Elia, let's go ahead. Let's start at the top here. I'm going to share my screen with what are the milestones that we're looking for when we're looking at taking a practice that has what we call metabolic business syndrome in the functional world, right? And trying to make it better.
Yeah, so there's really three areas that we look at. And depending on the level of business that we're working with, whether that's at the beginning stages or a business that's, 5 years or plus older, we're really looking in these three different areas. One, to increase internal or to increase profits, right? So to optimize your profit margins within your current leads and your patient base by restructuring your offerings and your pricing. What a lot of people don't realize is if you can just shift your pricing, or Adam, we see this a lot, they're scared to change their pricing. They're scared that they're going to lose people. But if you shift this to increase your profits, it has a dramatic impact on your business over time.
Yeah. And I think I want to just stack on that, Elliot, because one of the things that we hear from people all the time, when they're like, okay, cash flows usually a constraint. It's usually cash or time. Either the cash flow is good, but my cash is dependent on my time. So if I slow down, the company slows down, or we have a cash flow constraint. And that is, okay, I've got money coming in. The profit margin is not where it needs to be. In order to make more money, I have to work more or all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people think if I just go out there and do a bunch of marketing and get new clients at the door, that's going to solve the problem. And that is not necessarily true. It usually is the opposite. And what we need to do is like the acres of diamonds are under your feet right there. And that first step in increasing profits, that first milestone is uncovering those hidden gems. It's like they already exist. So how do you optimize what's going on with the people already walking in the door that you're working with? That's step number one.
Absolutely. Step number two, we're going to maximize internal revenue. So this basically means, again, increasing revenue through the internal warm network that you have, leads and existing clients and lifetime value. So again, looking at, as Adam said, the gems underneath your feet and really increasing your revenue through those means so that, again, you can do the fastest thing that's possible, which is take what you already have and utilize that to increase your revenue in your business.
So step number two, maximize internal revenue. When Elliot says LTV, lifetime value, this is a very important concept that I think a lot of business owners don't really look at. They look at per transaction, what they're making or what their profit margin is, not how much they're making per person walking in the door. Yep. And so once we have things set up, when we say increase profits, that also means without burning you out. Right. So we want to make sure we're setting things up so you're not burning out. So you increase profits. You can just raise the price and that will do that for you. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But typically that does not solve the other constraints, which a lot of time are time and impact. So we want to make sure that we're solving all the constraints at the same time. Maximizing internal revenue is like, okay, how can we take, again, the people already coming in the door, because it's a lot easier to keep a customer than it is to get a new one. It's a lot less expensive too. How do we take somebody who's already worked with us, who's already given us some money to maximize, and we're not trying to beat them over the head and push them into sales or anything like that, but how can we maximize the results we're getting with them while maximizing the revenue we're getting from that person every year? And so that's what you really want to look at, is how to maximize the internal revenue. That leads us into step three.
Yeah. So step three is scale external revenue. Now, for those that we work with that are just getting started in their business, we typically will have to jump right to this section when we start working with them. But this is really about increasing leads and new patient acquisition. And this is through diversified marketing strategies. And so this is really, really important, because as marketing shifts, or as different strategies shift, it's really important that you're able to diversify yourself on those different platforms and or with those different marketing strategies.
And this is really important because it does depend on what stage your business is at. For some people, Once they increase profits and maximize internal revenue, they never need to do an external marketing campaign again. They do not need new client acquisition. Again, going back to the original problem, do you really need more people walking in the door? And a
Yep.
lot of times the answer is no. If you have a fresh business, well, then yeah, you need people walking in the door. So that would be the first step. Or would it be the first step? The first step is set things up so your profits are maximized before you start working with people. Then you scale the external revenue, then you maximize the internal revenue. So it's really
Yep.
important to understand what stage of the business you're in order to put this down. So what you want to do before you listen to anything else we do, you want to make sure you've got your milestones in place. What is it? What's the framework? How simple can I make this? And just so you know, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. But how do I take what I'm doing already, maximize my time, maximize the profits? And of course, number one, first and foremost, we're maximizing the results we're getting with people, because if we're not transforming their lives and transforming their health, none of this stuff matters.
Yes, and Adam, that's a really good point, and a mind shift thing that we talk about all the time and is really important in this entire process, which was really understanding too that when we talk about this, that there is a way in which you can set up your offerings that charging more actually supports the client in getting better results. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, we could talk. Well, let's talk about pricing. Let's talk about how this pricing actually affects human impact. So this is the opportunity that we're going to dive into. And I know this looks a little overwhelming, but if you stick with me for a second, I think we might be able to simplify it so you can see what we're doing here. We've got human impact. So first and foremost, we go into functional health, integrative health, holistic health, and or regenerative health, some form of root cause resolution, because we want to see people get better. We want to maximize their lifespan. We want to maximize their love and the impact they're having on the people that they care about the most. So if we have a transactional model, and that is going to be these first two columns right here. Oh, let's get off there. If we are getting $500 per year, annual revenue per client, we're getting $500 and we're at a 5% profit margin. Now, a lot of brick and mortar practices we talk to are literally in the single digits. Like you're anywhere between 2 and like 7 or 8%, like it's really low. And I don't know if you know, corporation wise, like if you got a big company, they're usually striving between 18 to 25%, and then they're really happy on the profit margin. But why is it when we're out there transforming someone's life, we have a really low profit margin? So let's say you're making $500 a year, your profit margin is 5%, your take home is $25 per person. That means in order to hit $100,000 in profit, you must see 4,000 different people. You must interact with 4,000 unique individuals, not 4,000 appointments, not 4,000 sessions, not 4,000 procedures, 4,000 different people. And if you want to hit $1 million in profit, which is a lot of people's goal, 40,000 people a year at this level. Let's say, okay, Adam, well, I'm not at 500. My profit margin is a little bit better. Well, let's say you make $1,000 per year, but let's say your profit margin is only 10%. Well, your take home is $100, but you still need to see 1,000 people a year in order to hit that $100,000 in profit, or 10,000 people a year if you want to hit $1 million in profit annually. Now, when I say human impact, we know from statistical research and the studies out there, when we are in a transactional model, meaning we are selling our time, we are selling our service, we're selling, hey, come see me on Tuesday at 1 o'clock, it's going to be $200 an hour. Your intake session is $300 an hour. Or, hey, we're going to put you in a hyperbolic chamber for $150. Or, hey, we're going to do cryotherapy for $75. Or, hey, we've got a red light treatment, it's going to be $50 for 30 minutes. Whatever procedure or transaction you're selling, we know that this is true. Your long-term success rate is less than 10%. That means you may see some good temporary results and they might give you some cool creds and maybe some reviews at this lower transactional model, but are you really changing their health for the long term? In all statistical research, it's less than 10% of the people are having lifelong changes. Even if you are a functional medical doctor with a physical practice, people come see you. Sure, they follow, sure, they take some supplements, but are they really changing your life? Are they really changing things? And then
I think Adam, we could, even transpose the word transactional with sporadic, right? Sporadic times that people come and see you, sporadic number of visits, that sort of thing. And I think everybody can relate to that, where it's like, you might suggest that your patient or client come to see you 3 times a month, but do you actually get them there? Or is it more like once every other month?
Yeah, and then I'm going to hide the caption here. And so then what we do is we move into what we call 10-year client sick savings. So as you know, anybody that has a chronic lifestyle disease or dysfunction. This comes from poor eating habits, poor sleeping habits, poor exercise habits, sedentary lifestyle. We know the drill. We're preaching to the choir. That means that they are coping and managing the symptoms of a disease or a dysfunction. If they are in the healthcare system, according to the Center for Disease Control, and I'm going to use their type 2 diabetes report because this actually transfers over to just about every disease and dysfunction that integrative or functional health can fix. But according to the CDC in Atlanta, a type 2 diabetic in North America, the United States, lower 48 states, even if they have insurance, they are spending $16,750 a year just to manage the disease, even if they have insurance. And what happens, Ellie, when we manage a disease?
Well, typically it gets worse, right?
Not typically, it always gets worse.
Yeah.
Managing diseases never get better. You manage the symptoms, but you don't get to the root cause, they get worse. So if you're not having a great long-term success rate, are you really saving people money over the healthcare system, our traditional sickness healthcare system? The answer is not much.
Yep.
Not much. We really don't know, but it's at this level, we know it's not much at all. On the other hand, if we move to a transformational thing, transformational is a big word with a lot of syllables. It basically means if you focus on the amazing outcome that you help somebody achieve and structure your business, your offer, and your pricing that way, some really cool things happen. First, we take the price up. Minimum $3,000. Typically, we shoot at $5,000 or more flat fee. You can have payment options and all this kind of stuff. Don't think that you're just taking $5,000 from somebody's pocket. Typically, what that will do is that will raise the profit margin to 30 or 40%. And I want to give you an example. If you haven't seen my interview with Dr. Jake Deakins, it's on our YouTube channel. It's here in the group. It's also on our client results page. These guys, he and his brother, so he's a medical doctor who ran the emergency room in Spokane, Washington. His brother was a registered nurse that worked at the same hospital. They started their practice. They had it for 3.5 years. They couldn't break even. They could break even, but they had like a 1.78% profit margin, less than 2%. They were barely taking anything home. In the first month of working with them and launching an impact-driven system that we helped them build, they increased their profit margin by 65% to 67%. And in that first 30 days, net profit added $40,000 to the bottom line, all by doing what we're teaching here. So if you want to see how that works. So these numbers are actually kind of small compared to what could possibly happen for you. And they have a physical brick and mortar. So let's say you're at 3,000, 30% profit margin, your take home is $900 per person. That means you only need 112 people to hit $100,000 in profit. Now, Elliot, what would you rather do? Have to work with thousands of people or maybe 100?
Definitely quality over quantity, for sure.
Yes. And if you want to hit $1 million in profit, that's only 1,120 people a year. Your long-term success rate, which we know has been proven, jumps to over 80%. And when you have that kind of success rate, then what you're doing is, according to the CDC, $16,750 a year managing diabetes, you just put $164,500 back in that person's pocket over 10 years. So you multiply that times 10, you take away your fee, and that's how much money you put back into that person that they can now use with their family. They can do cool things with, right? And if you look at 112 people, then we're looking at, you just ripped $14,739,200 out of the healthcare system, and you put it back into people's lives. That is an insane impact. I mean, Ellie, would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And of course, at $5,000, which is where we really like to take people, your profit margin shoots up to 40%. And just for the record, Jake and Peter, they're at $77,500, $7,500 for an erectile dysfunction offer. And their profit margin is huge now. So let's say you're at 40%. That means your take home was $2,000 per person. You only need 25 people a year to hit that $100,000 profit, not revenue. So many people talk about boost your sales, boost your revenue. It doesn't matter unless the profit's good. And if you want to hit $1 million, you only need 250 unique people a year to hit $1 million of profit. That's pretty freaking cool, I think. Your long-term success rate jumps above 90%, and your price a little bit higher, so you are only putting $162,500 back into someone's pocket. Oh my! But your goes up, and of course, we're still saving almost $14,000 over them spending it on managing and mitigating the symptoms. Ellie, is all this making sense?
Yes. So it's a lot of numbers for sure. But again, you get the general gist here of, again, looking at how you can structure things to have a big impact on your business and an even bigger impact on your clients. Because, again, too, a big part of our work is making sure that all of our talented, functional, and integrative practitioners out there are not burning out, are not operating at these really low margins, which is pretty difficult to sustain.
Yeah.
And, we see people again just stuck in these time crunches. And even if you are just at the beginning stages, you might be like, well, Elia, I don't have that kind of time crunch. You will if you continue to grow your business. And so if you can set it up the right way from the very beginning, you're going to be way ahead of the game.
Yes. So let's talk about margin impact. And what I mean by this is based on every $1 million in revenue, total sales, because a lot of companies get to $1 million. And so if you increase your profit margin just by 5%, every year you're going to put $50,000 more into your pocket. That is not chump change. Over 10 years, that's $500,000. And then you have 10%, 20%, 30%. If you add 30% to the bottom line, like I said, is not uncommon, especially if you're under 20% already. A lot of the people we work with can easily get to 45, 50, 65, even 70% profit margins. And in a few cases, when they do not have a physical brick and mortar, they have less overhead. Sometimes those profit margins hit as high as 90 to 97%. But if you added 30% profit margin to the bottom line, that's another $300,000 take home in your pocket, right? Obviously, we've got to pay taxes on it, but who cares? That's 300 grand. That's 3 million over the next 10 years. Like, what would your business do if it had that much more profit margin? Now, a lot of people are like, okay, Adam and Ellie, this is great. We've got the milestones, right? We want to increase the profits. Then we want to maximize the internal revenue. We want to scale the external revenue. Those are my milestones. That's how I'm going to do that. How do I actually install an impact-driven system into my business? And that's what we're going to show you right now. And I'm going to hand it over to Miss Elia.
Yeah. So we're going to take a look at, and you'll want to take a look at the four main areas in your business. So we start with structure. And so this is where we're going to create profitable transformational packages. And this is where, again, you really want to look at what requires the least startup time. So in the things that I work with, the different diseases and dysfunctions that I work with, what would require the least startup time to start something new, to create a new transformational, I'm just going to use package in quotes, right? A new way and structured way of working with my potential clients. And then how do I generate the most dramatic results possible, equaling raving referrals? And again, this is a little bit about what Adam and I talked about earlier, which is, are you seeing your patients and clients in transactions where it's just sporadic and it's all over the place? Or are you getting and utilizing momentum to create dramatic results in a short period of time? When you have a lot of raving reviews and you have people telling people about what you do, now you've just created a self-feeding system. So structure is really all about, again, how do we make it easier and more efficient to work so that you're not just feeling stuck, right? Again, in that churn and burn model.
Exactly. So when we're talking about going in and working with people, so think about structure as this. If structure is going to be the proverbial shop that we're setting up, right? So think about it is what we want to do is we want to make sure that shop is set up to deliver results. And it's super important that the number one thing that we need to do, let's get back to the screen here so you guys can follow us. The number one thing we need to do is to make sure that your clients and patients are getting the strongest results possible in the shortest period of time. This is one of the things that integrated and functional practitioners fail to do. They spread out over 6 months to a year to 2 years what they're doing with people when they could condense it down and save a ton of time and charge a lot more money for it.
Yep.
Not only do we want to do that, we also want to make sure that your health company has a healthy bottom line. So you have a healthy health company. And of course, we want to make sure you're not burning out in the process doing it, because like the person you spoke with yesterday, Elia, they don't need any more money, but they just need time, because the minute they slow down, the sales go, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And there is that alignment that they're feeling, that pressure of like, hey, I'm preaching to my clients that they need to have good life work balance, but I have none. Right. And that's a really difficult place to be. So we take a look at structure. Then the second piece is messaging. And again, you want to really hone in and just kind of realize and notice and audit. What are you telling people about your business? How do you communicate your true value and your true impact on people so that when people come in, it's like, okay, maybe they're new to you and they're like, who the heck are you? But you're able to describe what you do and what the outcome is going to be so succinctly that they're like, hey, yes, absolutely, I'm in. Here's my credit card. I want to move forward. And so when we come in and help with the implementation of this, we're going to make sure that you know exactly how to tell everyone about your new offer, how it works, and why the change. Because this is always a really big sticking point for people. Is like, how, if I'm going to change my pricing, like, how am I going to do that? And why are people going to stick with me? And aren't they going to have a lot of questions? And we, help people run through a process that shows them exactly how to handle all that. And then really making sure that your entire team or anybody that you hire in the future really is all speaking the same language so that, again, you can maximize your sales profits, your margins, and then, of course, ultimately impact the results that people are getting when they come into your business.
And LA, this is super important because this is what we call integrative marketing. Yes, we specialize in wellness focused health companies, but integrative marketing means that everybody on the team, from the accountant that nobody talks to the business owner, the staff members, the front, everybody that you work with is speaking the same language. And the same language needs to be transformation. So if structure is the shop, messaging is the sign that we're going to hang outside the shop. And so pieces of advice right now, please, for the love of avocados, nobody wants to purchase functional medicine. Nobody wants to be the best you that you can be. They don't want to be the best them that they can be. They don't want, what's the other one? Live your best life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about lab tests. Nobody cares about analysis. Nobody cares about hyperbolic chambers. Nobody cares about red light therapy. Nobody cares. I mean, they will if you're at a lower ticket model, but if you actually change the messaging, because when you're selling those things, you're literally camouflaging your true value. You're camouflaging your true impact. So you want to move to this transformational outcome-based messaging so people gravitate toward you. And we want to do it ethically. We want to do it with integrity. So anything you say in a conversation or that you write in a post or an email or an advertisement takes people from what is it you do to thank you for taking my credit card. And that's what we want to do. And so once we have messaging down, Eléa,
then we move into marketing. So here it's really deciding where you want to share your message, who's going to share your message for you. Is that going to be you or someone else? And organizing the channels to reach the leads who have the problem you fix without being salesy. So this is the piece where we always find with our clients, they have often a very tumultuous love-hate relationship with marketing. And so really getting them to understand how to leverage it instead of be battling with it is really, really important, and being able to maximize profits and impact.
In marketing, I think is really important to talk here about that most people overcomplicate their marketing. They really, really do. If you learn how to do the right marketing, and let me go back here and show you exactly what I mean, because I think it goes back to our original milestone here. Remember, our original milestone up here is how do we optimize profit margins with current leads and patient base by restructuring offerings and pricing. Marketing is literally where do we put the sign? So if the structure is the shop that we set up, proverbial shop, messaging is the sign, then marketing, this is going to be where do we hang the sign, and where we're going to hang the sign with the people already walking in the door. That's assuming you have an existing practice. Obviously, if you don't have an existing practice, we need to get out there into your warm network. And a lot of people are like, what is a warm network? Well, those are people who already know who you are. And it goes beyond just your friends and family. We don't want to pester them. And people are like, wow, nobody knows me. It's like, you have more of a warm network than you probably think you do. And so that's where we really want to start there. We want to simplify things. We want to uncomplicate it. We want to get your message out there so people are raising their hand and they're waiting at your door to come in and talk to you. And that goes into number 4, Eléa.
Yes. No. So number 4, we talk enrolling. And so this is just another word for sales. But again, just like marketing, a lot of times we talk to people where their relationship with sales is again, quite tumultuous. So really helping people, especially in the healthcare space, get behind how to sell their services and their transformation. And this is really, really important because if you can learn to sell what you do and the outcome that you provide for your clients and patients, then you have a fighting chance at impacting and tipping the scales from sickness to wellness. If you can't do this well, then you are literally being negligent in a way to people that need your help because you're not able to communicate and get them across the line in a sales conversation. And so this is really, really important. And it's something that I know a lot of people struggle with because they have this feeling that it's like, it's health, I should help them, it should be free, or it should be so inexpensive that it's easy for anyone to access. And again, there are varying levels on this. And I think what's most important here, and I'll just touch on this really quick, which is there are certain levels of illnesses that often require certain levels of commitment from people. And, when we don't invest that much in what we're doing, we typically don't show up that much. And so money can be a very powerful way to leverage people into doing the things that are going to serve them best. And again, this is it's not for everyone, but it is a really important piece. So in this section, we're going to really optimize your warm leads by converting more patients and clients into your services. So people that are already kind of hovering around you, they're already in your sphere, right? Or if you're just getting started, how to magnetize those people to you. And then knowing the easiest way to handle all of the objections that I am sure you have already experienced, which is, people saying it's like, oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't know, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need to think about it, or I don't know, maybe I'll come back. Let me, do this, that, the other, and then I'll decide if I want to, make this happen. So really understanding how to have those conversations and having a built-in structure for those sales conversations that you or your entire team know how to leverage and operate. Because one thing is for sure, if everyone's saying something different, if your processes are different across the board, then every person who comes in is going to have a very different experience in your practice and in your business. And what we want is people to come to you feeling like there's a level of consistency that they can understand, that they know. And same for yourself and your employees. So people understand how to make this work and how to help the whole business grow. So this is really key.
So just a quick recap. So basically what Eléa's talking about is getting more of the right people to say yes at the right price, using an empowering conversation to where the person that you're speaking to realizes, without beating over the head with a sales baseball bat, that they realize that it is more costly and risky to stay where I am, managing and mitigating these health problems I have, than it is to hire you. That is more risky to stay where I am than it is to hire you. And then it clicks in their head automatically that, oh my gosh, I need this person. I need your help. I need to hire you right now. That's how it works. So this is basically what to say when people walk in the door. So quick recap: structure is a proverbial shop. Messaging is the sign that we hang outside the shop. Marketing is where we hang the sign. And like I said, if we've got existing people we're working with, we always want to hang that sign there first. We don't need any complicated marketing funnels and campaigns and advertising and all this stuff to make that happen. And even if you've got a new business and you're fresh, you probably don't need complicated marketing funnels and advertising campaigns to make that happen either, because you probably have a warm network that you can totally tap into. Then of course, we've got the sign outside in the right place and the right eyeballs are seeing it. People are going to walk in the door. They're going to raise their hand. And this is the conversation you want to have with them. So this is how you install an impact-driven profit system. So if we go back to the top, remember, we've got our milestones. We want to optimize those profit margins with the current people coming in the door by restructuring your offerings and your pricing. That means restructuring how you're working. It does not mean restructuring your business, if that makes any sense. Because Eléa, I think people get confused sometimes when they hear restructure, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to have to change our entire business model in order to meet what you're talking about? And that's not necessarily true. It's talking about, and maybe you can elaborate this, how to repackage what you're already doing.
Yes, absolutely. Just like you said, right? We take what you're already doing and find the smallest little lever points that are going to create the biggest impact in your business and the biggest impact on your profits.
Right.
And yes, absolutely. Like our goal, and we understand, having had multiple businesses, that our goal is not to come in and create chaos. Our goal is to come in and create structure with the minimal amount of work, the minimal amount of invasion, as you could say, right? Just like you're doing with your own patients and clients, you're not wanting to smack them with 100 different things in 100 different ways that they've got to change their entire life. You're like, what's the one or two things I can do to shift this person's trajectory of health most powerfully? And that's the same way that we look at your business.
Then we want to maximize that internal revenue. It's like, okay, now we got the profit margins up where they need to be. Let's see if we can maximize the internal revenue. That means with the things that are already happened, these are the acres of diamonds under your feet. And of course, if desired, scale external revenue if you need to get into new client acquisition. Of course, the impact opportunity, the human impact, just remember, if we're at a transactional model, it's going to take us several thousand people to hit 100 grand in profit. It just is at this profit margin. And even if you're at a higher profit margin, it's still going to take you a good bit of people, unless maybe you're at like 90% profit margin with $1,000 offering, then it'll take you 900 people. But still, that's a good bit. Now, if you are over here and you're looking at, a transformational model, 3 to 5 grand, it takes us a lot. We can focus a lot more of our efforts on fewer people. So the question I like to ask people is, what's more important, touching as many people as you can or transforming as many people as you can? Because good transformation is always better, because in transactional, our long-term success rate is under 10%. Our transformational, our long-term success rates are easily over 80%, often over 90%. And then what we're really doing that's super cool, transactional does not put money back into people's pockets long-term over the next decade, 10 years. However, transformationals do put hundreds of thousands of dollars back into people's pockets that they can use with their family, they can use for vacations, they can use for cool stuff. And of course, we got our margin impact. Every time you bump up your margin by a certain percentage, this is what it does to your bottom line, which is super cool. And then our path of victory, it's like, this is the impact system. This is what you do. Change the structure, get the messaging down, uncomplicate the marketing, and then learn how to have a heartfelt conversation so more of the right people say yes at the right price. On that, Eléa, any other summary, any other things that we've picked up that we can share with people on how to install an impact-driven profit system?
I think the biggest thing is you start with one piece at a time. So pick something of what we said today and go ahead and do one little step towards implementation. And again, if that's just, I've got more questions, then pop those questions in the comments here. Or if it's, okay, let me take a look at what my offerings are and if I would be willing to increase my price. One thing that I think is so important is that, a lot of times people are so busy and or so lost in how to grow their business or busy serving clients. So we kind of have those two juxtapositions, is that we don't take the time to look to see what are those small levers that we could push to have a big impact on our business. And that is time worth taking.
And so anybody out there, if you need help installing an impact-driven profit system, or you have questions about this and see if there's maybe an alignment with your company and you'd like to learn more in detail about what we do, come on over to movethinksmile.com. It's pretty simple. This is our homepage right there. There's a short video of Eléa and I. We basically recap what we just went over with you. And there's a button below. It says book a demo. And we'll happily share with you the frameworks that we use with our clients, specifically in the integrative, functional, holistic, and regenerative wellness space, to where they can tip the scales from sickness to wellness. They can save a lot of people a lot of money over sickness-based healthcare, usually thousands of dollars. And if you didn't see that, we're talking about $150,000 pop. And that's not just, that was a T2 diabetes example, but that literally transferred to almost any chronic disease or dysfunction caused by a lifestyle. Yep. Come over to movethinksmile.com. And what I'll also do is we'll help you significantly boost your bottom line while freeing up your own time. We mean significantly boosting your bottom line. We mean by at least $116,000 or more. And we've got a pretty bold promise on top of that too. And if this is something that you do is feel as an alignment and you come in and work with us, and if we don't hit that $116,000 profit in the first 12 months, well, then we will either pay you back all your fees plus pay you $10,000 because we're wrong and for your time, or we will buy your health company at fair market value. So if that's something that you're interested in, we're very confident what we do. To date, knock on wood, no one has ever taken us up on that, because when we do what we do, we say we were going to do it. So come on over to movethinksmile.com, book a demo, and let's be happy to share the frameworks with you. Trust us, it's a very, very laid back conversation. On top of that, Eléa, any other parting shots for today?
That's it. I think we gave a lot today, and hopefully it was simple enough and we, went through enough scenarios that it's making sense.
Yeah. So if you're just tuning in, go back, watch the top of this video. We're going to end the live stream here in a second. This is all about how to install your own impact-driven profit system. We go through details on that. And if you need help doing it, come on over to movethinksmile.com and book a demo, and we'll share exactly how we do it. Take care, everybody.